Sound check, test.
Hi.
We can't hear you. I don't want the other one so it has all the agenda. There. Now can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank goodness for technology, but sometimes not so much. Okay, notice is hereby given of a called board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Greenville Independent School District, Wesley Martin Administration Building, Greenville, Texas, to be held on December 15th at 5:30 p.m. Due to health and safety concerns related to COVID-19 coronavirus, this meeting will be conducted or can be conducted by video conference or telephone call. At least a quorum of the board will be participating by video conference or telephone call in accordance with the provisions of section 551.125 or 551.127 of the Texas Government Code that have not been suspended by order of the governor. Members of the public who desire to address the board regarding an item on this agenda or non-agenda items when applicable must send their full name, address, and comments to comments@greenvillisd.com. These comments will be read during the public comments section of the meeting. Okay. Quorum is established. Aletha is joining us by video conference. So at 5:34, this meeting is now opening. Okay. Okay, let me get down here. At this time, we instead of having Father Funk from St. Paul's, Dr. Anderton will be giving us the invocation.
Let us pray.
We're going to stand. Okay.
Lord, we come before you this evening with heavy hearts and with low spirits as we mourn the passing of two of our own, Stella Gonzalez, a kindergarten teacher at Crockett Elementary, and Aramis Mora, a Greenville High School senior. We pray this evening that you would send your spirit to comfort their friends and families. We cannot fathom the heartache that they feel. Wrap your arms around them and let them know that they are loved even in the midst of their pain. Help those around the family to be a shoulder to lean on, a person to cry with, a friend with which to share their burdens. How difficult it is to lose those close to us in such unexpected ways. Although we don't always understand these situations, we trust you will walk with us on the journey in the days ahead. Heal us, O Lord, from our hurt. Lift us up from our despair. Move us down the path ahead. Although we may only see darkness now, we know there are brighter, happier days ahead. Lord, bless the students, faculty, administration of GISD. Give them time in the days ahead for much needed, much deserved rest. Bring them back to us safely in the new year, ready to teach and to learn. And although we know this holiday season will be very different from previous holidays, may it be a time of reflection for each of us, a reminder of simpler times, an opportunity to appreciate our lives in a new and different way. Bless this administration, the board, the leadership of this district. This evening, provide wisdom to the board that they may make wise, meaningful decisions that positively impact the district and the community. Guide their steps as they lead the district into the future and toward higher and loftier goals. May they be ever mindful of the effect of their decision, and might they always make their decisions in the best interest of those we serve, the students. Lord, preside over us at this meeting tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Attachments. This is the time that we recognize our kids. So first up is our holiday card artist.
Yes, President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. One of our really fun annual holiday traditions is a holiday card with artwork designed by one of our students. This is Mackenzie Cardwell and her art teacher, Lindsay Plunkett. And you'll notice that in Mackenzie's artwork, Santa is in trouble. He is falling down the chimney. The reindeer have left him. It says, "Bye-bye, Santa." If you squint, you can see it over there. And we thought it was a fitting, humorous piece of artwork for this year. Mackenzie, by the way, is a riot, and she is joining us by Zoom. Mackenzie, are you out there?
Yep. Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Tell us
Mackenzie.
a little bit about your artwork and why you think it's funny.
When I was drawing this, I was thinking really everybody's been having a hard time this year, and it's getting harder now more than ever, because teachers getting stressed out about this and that, students trying to learn all this stuff. And I thought we should always have a good laugh this year. And also, actually, you'll notice that I have a cast on in that, where you see where I broke my arm jumping over the slide, because my class started jumping over the slide because they couldn't use any. Never mind. That's besides the point. And I thought we all needed to laugh this year. And so I tried to put some of my humor into this holiday card. Honest to goodness, never in a million years would I have thought I would win anything that had anything to do for drawing, but thank you so much for choosing it. And I think we should all take a moment to think about all the tough times and all the people who are struggling throughout all this COVID-19 stuff this year, and to remember to always have a good laugh even when things are tough.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Well deserved. Please join me in giving her a round of applause.
Thank you, Mackenzie. You're just like your mother. Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes you're kind of. Oh, you can. We need some technical support over here. Okay. No, Mackenzie's mom, since she was about that age, from Bible school and youth group. Now she's a teacher at Bowie. Hi, Nikki. So we're having a bit of technical.
Okay, I got it.
You got it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Moving on. Okay. Thank you guys for
Oh, good. I got it.
talking to us tonight. Thanks so much. Okay, moving on, we want to recognize the 2020 GHS Girls Volleyball Team, 2020 area champs.
Yes, ma'am.
I got it.
So our Lady Lions went to the third round of playoffs for the 2020 season. We are so proud of them and their coaches and all the families and students and staff and fans who cheered them on every step of the way. We are looking forward to next year's season, and we have some of the ladies here to join us along with their coach, Jenna Sickles. So Coach Sickles, if you could introduce your lady athletes and just tell us a little bit about the season.
Yes. First of all, thank you guys all for your support this season. It was a very fun season. It was, we just had a really great team, and we just really appreciate the support that the school board, the administration has given us throughout this season. I do have a couple of girls who wanted to speak, so I don't want to take up too much time because I want to let you guys hear from them. So our team is on the Zoom. Pretty much everybody, I think a couple had to work, but Jenna Wade and Sydney Walker both were going to give you guys some insight about our season. So I will let them, whichever one wants to go first, jump on and let you hear from them.
I'll go first. I'm Jenna Wade. I'm a junior, and every season of volleyball has been just a blast. Like the way we've bonded together every single year I've played is like it makes volleyball in general so much better. But this year everything felt different. Not even considering coronavirus or anything. I mean, I know our season got cut short, but I feel like this year we all played much more together and we all bonded more because this season the girls in the team, we've played together since we were like 8 years old and like starting in like city league and stuff. And so just the fact that we got as far as we did, even though we could have probably gone a little bit farther, this year was by far the best year yet. And hopefully next year we can go a couple more rounds farther, make it even to state. But this year was super special to me, and not even, thinking about Corona, like just the season in general was so fun to me, and the way it turned out was super special to me.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sydney Walker. I'm a sophomore. And this year we overcame a lot going through having a late season, not having as many preseason games before district and moving into a more challenging district. And we walked away in second place. So I'm pretty proud of that. That's a really big accomplishment to me. And I think that we had an amazing season. We made it 3 rounds into the playoffs, winning by district and area. And this season has been amazing and a season that I'll never forget with our team. And we had the best coaches in like the whole entire world. And it's been a really great season.
Wonderful. Well, please join me in congratulating the Lady Lions.
I think Coach Duke is on too. Does he want to say something, Helen?
Oh, Coach Duke?
He was on. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, speak up.
Super
Coach.
proud of them and Coach Sickles, the whole group, and we just keep getting better every year. Thank y'all for the recognition.
Thank you.
Right.
I also want to recognize these girls not only as athletes, but for their work in the classroom. Most of these girls are high academic achievers, and I'm super proud of them just for that, as well as their volleyball skills. All around good kids. So, okay. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else have a comment? Thanks so much.
All right.
Next is our hero of hope. Thank you. We appreciate all she does for our kids and their families at
Yes.
Carver.
And I don't know if Whitney, are you out there or anybody from
Yes, I'm out
Carver?
here.
Hi, well, you certainly deserve this.
Thank you. I just wanted to say really quick that I'm so honored and blessed to have been nominated and chosen as a Hero of Hope this month. I never thought that that would happen. I love the work I do, and I hope to continue to serve our district for many years. As a social worker, I've always had a very giving nature, but that has come from very hard times. I had a rough childhood dealing with my parents' divorce, sexual abuse, homelessness, a parent on drugs, and the other an alcoholic, and the death of my mom when I was 14. But all of that hardship has helped me relate to so many of our students on campus and better serve their needs. It just goes to show you that we should never give up on any student regardless of their home life. I just want to say thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for the award that I will cherish forever.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Threet. I have a special connection with Ms. Threet. She was actually, when I was a principal, middle school principal in Mansfield, she was a student of mine. And we also have the same birthday. So
Yeah.
we have, yeah. Congratulations, Ms. Threet.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we come to the time for public comments. Are there any public comments for tonight? There's not. Okay, thank you. Are there comments from any board members? Well, I just want to say here are the handouts, but we'll get to that later. Okay. Okay. Next is the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. This superintendent's report, before I'll start, I would just like to thank Dr. Anderson for the prayer that mentioned the 2 deaths that we've had just this week along. A couple of weeks ago, we also lost a student from a injury that he had sustained months earlier. So just continue to keep all of our families and teachers and students in our prayers. Firstly, we had the class of 1960 that planted an autumn blaze red maple tree over at a high school close to the CTE wing of the building, and really in honor of the 70 classmates who's passed away. So that was a very nice honor that they tribute. And once the tree begins to bloom, it'll actually be absolutely beautiful. We also, this past month, our teacher supply closet, we've continued to have donations. As you know, that is full-time. I don't know if it's full-time, but we have retired teachers that are there constantly that are helping our kids and our teachers get some things that they need for their students. And so appreciate those ladies and all the donations and the hard work that they continue to do. This month, we also recognize it was Special Education Professionals Day on December 2nd. And just like to recognize these are the staff that works with our most challenging students and quite often with some of our most challenging educational needs. And they do it each day. And so it was a great day to really just recognize them and all of the efforts that they put forth. And finally, almost finally for sports, football did go to the playoffs again this year, 2nd year in a row. They lost against the number 8 state-ranked team, but when I tell you those guys fought and played with some heart and really made them have to work for that win, I was very, very excited at the game, and they did a phenomenal job. And it was also the first away game our band and drill team got to go to. So we were excited for that. Basketball girls district plays have started, and boys pre-district games are in place right now. And GHS Lions and Lady Lions begin their season this week for soccer. So athletics is still continuing. And finally, just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. Be safe over the break. And as a reminder, we return to school on January 5th, both students and staff.
Okay. You too. District news update? Or is that a part of your superintendent?
Yes, this is still the, as you know, today we did ultimately make the decision to close the middle school. Today, a different factor actually came into play with doing that. And a lot of the factors we had discussed today was a new one that I had not actually thought of previously. Although we were well over the 25% that the staff, that the board had established, but we were able to function effectively. Many kids were at home. Most of the impacted people from the breakout were students, and so we're still able to function. One of the things we realized today is that there was a lot of concern because there were so many people that were at home and being quarantined. A lot of our parents were growing increasingly concerned about sending their kids back to school, and attendance began to drop as a result. And so in that instance, we felt it would be better if kids are going to actually learn, if they're not going to come to school, to go ahead and do that. And thereafter, we had, after the decision was actually made, a couple of more cases came in that put the at well over 50% of the kids that were in quarantine.
Wow.
And so they will be learning the remainder 3 days at home, and give it plenty of time over the break to get well and come back and start fresh again in 2021.
School leadership.
For I would also like to call on Miss Noelle Bars to update the board on the coronavirus rapid testing system.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, well, good evening, President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. Our rapid testing program we've rolled out very slowly since Thanksgiving. We are only offering the rapid test we're starting with just symptomatic staff. If they have symptoms, they can register online. It's quite an amazing process. It's actually very, very simple. They register online. They get a QR code that they take a picture of with their phone. Then they can come to me when I am at HEC, and they can come up just to the back door and just wait right out there. I bring the card out. We scan the test. We scan their QR code, quick little swab on the nose, and in 15 minutes they have results. And then the nice part about it is, as I submit those results right there from the QR code, then the Texas Rapid Test System sends them an official report via email and text. We have only tested actually 9 symptomatic staff since we started last week with just trying and getting our feet wet and seeing how smooth it would go. And then we've done 9 people. We suspended the testing this week due to a shortage of nursing staff, and I was covering campuses, but we were able to provide for the people who needed testing through referrals to Hunt Regional Lab Solutions, where we have a standing order for them to go get tested. And also CareVive has really stepped up in helping our staff. Even if they're not a patient of CareVive, they can do a virtual visit. Their master scheduler, all I have to do is send her our staff member's name and phone number, and the master scheduler fits them in, and they can get a rapid test and a regular test and a virtual visit as needed. So I look forward to being fully staffed after Christmas for my nurses and being able to conduct more of the rapid testing for the staff members at that time. We did not have any positive tests, by the way, of the ones that we did. Everybody was negative. And if someone were to be positive, no, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. If you're symptomatic and you have a negative rapid test, that's a presumptive test. It's not a diagnostic test. So then we would refer the staff member to their physician for further evaluation and or the PCR test, which is the diagnostic test. So we would not automatically have them go back to school with symptoms because their rapid test was negative. We would still have them do further evaluation, and that's the recommendation of the CDC and TEA as well, following along with the CDC. Do you have any questions for me regarding that?
Does CareVive also do the other test? They do both tests for our teachers if necessary,
yes.
or staff?
Yes, yes,
okay.
they do.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for your report. We know you've been busy.
Everyone's.
Trying to be 4 people at the same time. So we appreciate all your efforts and keeping us informed about the kids and staff that are quarantined and at home.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Dr. Liggins, did Do you want to anything regarding quarantine at all?
That is later on the agenda.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sorry. I didn't pick it up there. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to ask, but I didn't know if it was going to be later or not.
Yes, it's under 6D.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. We have teaching and learning.
For this section, I'd like to call Sharon Booth to go over the teacher and school leader grant.
Okay, thank you, President Stafford, Superintendent Liggins, members of the board. Tonight, I have the opportunity to share with you. Many of you were kind enough to write a letter of support for this grant back in March, if you'll remember. And I'm excited tonight to let you know that we actually did get the grant. We are one of 13 schools across the United States that received it. So tonight, I'd like to give you an overview and let you know what our next steps are. We are calling the grant IGNITE, and that stands for Innovation Generated by Networked Improvement Teams of Educators. A lot of words for an acronym, but it is something that's very unusual because it's a cross-school collaboration. There's 4 high-need school districts across the United States. West Palm Beach, Florida, Jackson, Mississippi, Syracuse, New York, and us here in Greenville. This grant is really one of a kind to allow us to reach out to districts that have the same challenges we do, but not just in Texas. We always, the correlation to this grant, I know we explained it to you back in March, but one thing that I wanted to reiterate is that Dr. Liggins' charge to teaching and learning is to ensure student success, close the gap in differentiation instruction to ensure that every child attains their maximum learning potential. Well, this particular grant had the 5 of these components in mind when we wrote it: to improve student achievement, increase teacher effectiveness, increase school leader effectiveness, evaluate every project or activity against the student achievement and the cost to ensure that we're getting a biggest bang for our money, and to create a sustainable system of constant improvement. It's also directly aligned with our strategic plan, both in teaching and learning, because we have committed to you as a board that we will raise growth and performance expectations of our students and staff. We intend to increase attendance and participation in all school activities. And if we have engaging lessons and great learning opportunities, we know that our students will want to come to school. Support Greenville ISD students who are economically or educationally disadvantaged, making sure we target every child in Greenville ISD and offer professional development opportunities. This grant also aligns with human resources, a strategic plan to attract quality, diverse, and committed professional staff, revise the hiring process, which will include interviewing, training, and create a pay structure and environment which makes GISD a district of choice. Now, I'm going to start with saying all of what I'm about to tell you, the key components are going to sound really, really great. We know that research shows that the campuses that implement the process that I'm about to explain prefers the process more than any other process they've ever experienced in their teaching experience. That being said, it will come with changes into instruction. It's a very rigorous process, not only for the students, but also for the staff. It's been the experience of campuses that have implemented this, that there is definitely growing pains, but once the process is learned and implemented, most people will tell you they prefer this process before anything. So now I will list, even though you've probably read by now, the key components. There is a summer training by the National Education Leaders Workshop. We do have a team of instructional leadership team members on every campus that will be designated by the principal. There is embedded professional development, so targeted for the needs of the students on that campus. There is a career path for teachers that want to be teacher leaders. The career path is designated by classroom teachers, demonstration teachers, and demonstration teachers are ones that will invite other teachers into their classroom to let them show them the learning that they have put into place in their classroom. And then there's lead teachers that will be teaching teachers after they have done trial basis on students before we launch anything on that campus. So we'll have data to prove that whatever skill we teach a teacher is effective for all students on that campus. We'll have targeted coaching through systematic, data-driven. We'll have virtual coaching platforms. So we're already kind of used to our Zooms and our Google Classrooms, but virtual coaching will be specifically either the teacher can videotape herself and give herself, his or herself, reflective feedback, or they can share it with the principal, they can share it with a peer, but they will look for coaching from all of GISD just to get better. And the lead teachers will model, observe, collaborate in a planning process, and then there will be a year-round recruitment system to attract teachers to Greenville. It is stipend based, and the minimum stipend is $5,000. There is a scale that a group of teachers and administrators and key stakeholders will help us develop, and I'll show you an example at the end of this presentation. But stipends will be based on student achievement, the evaluation data, survey results, student learning objectives, which the state of Texas put in place 2 years ago. And then there will be a retention matrix that helps us make sure that teachers are rewarded for staying in Greenville ISD. So the actual fund grant is a 3-year grant with an option based on performance to go out 5 years. You'll see the dollars for the first year, which is this year. And then the next year is 1.1, and the third year is 1.1, and then the total grant is $3,159,012.09. So we're very, we're excited about what those dollars are going to do for Greenville ISD teachers and staff. Before I take any questions, I do want to say that Dr. Liggins charged or challenged or asked me to figure out a way to find a grant that if we figure out a way to invest in the professional development of our teachers, not just your sit and get workshop during the summer or attending a conference here and there, but authentic, meaningful, and ongoing embedded PD, we will transform our entire district for the better and change the trajectory of our students' lives for years to come. You also may want to add someone in your presentation that will help with teacher retention, deeper content knowledge, better pedagogy, and stronger collaborative environment. I tried to include all these in my quote, but it became too cumbersome when I was trying to quote Dr. Liggins directly, but I didn't want to not give his word justice because it was a challenge that he gave me, and I think this grant truly made that happen. So we are in our initial planning process. I just wanted to let you know that we did get the grant that you wrote letters of support for. So this will include a bunch of people to make sure that we do grow our teaching and learning departments in Greenville ISD. Questions?
I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So have you identified which campuses?
Mm-hmm. All of them.
Okay. And you said that the principal was going to identify the teachers that will be the leaders?
They will play an integral part in the recruiting process. So it will, tomorrow I'm meeting with HR to develop a recruiting plan, and they will assist. The principal will be on the interview process, and they will be recruited across Greenville. So there may be a teacher at Travis that we think would be better at Lamar, and there may be a teacher at Carver that may be better at Bowie. So we're going to actually, let every principal go through the interview process. Does
What
that
is your
answer your question?
no, I mean, yes, it does. But I guess I'm curious how what's the criteria? What's the criteria for picking the teachers?
Can I tell you when the committee starts meeting? We'll give you other updates, because I want to make sure that a team of Greenville ISD current employees determine that.
Okay.
Dr.
Yeah, that
Liggins?
makes sense. Yeah, that
Okay.
totally makes sense. And I
Okay.
appreciate that sentiment as well. I just, I am very curious to know what the criteria will be.
Okay, we'll have job descriptions and we'll have rubrics. I will tell you, I apologize, because I did have a slide on how the stipends were going to be, but Shannon, is it coming up? No. But we have some suggestions, but we don't have anything in concrete yet. Literally, HR, I'm meeting with HR tomorrow, and then we'll meet with, then we'll put together the committee in January.
Okay, well, I mean, if you do have a slide, maybe you can send it to us at a different time, just so we can see it on an email.
Yes, and it's just a sample of one, yes.
Okay.
I'll get that to Dr. Liggins tonight. Dr. Liggins, do you want to add anything to that statement?
Well, of course, teachers will, I mean, their past student achievement will be a huge factor if they've proven to be successful. It's also different layers of teachers. Like I think the lead teacher actually only teaches other teachers. So certain teachers will not want to do that because they want to still be with kids constantly. And then you have the demonstration teachers who are teachers that will constantly have teachers in their classrooms watching them, other teachers. And so it's really a good mixture of what they're comfortable with, what they're interested in doing. The great thing about this, it takes a lot of our good teachers and allows them to advance in their career. If they want to do a little bit more, take on a little bit more responsibility, but not leave the classroom. And so that's one of the great aspects of this whole grant. But it also takes those teachers who are very comfortable being in the classroom, and that's where they want to remain, and it rewards them for their performance and gives them performance pay at the end of the year. And although we don't have, I don't know what happened to it, but there's a pool that's given to each campus, a certain amount of money, and then you meet certain criteria, and once you've met those criteria, you are able to earn those funds. And if someone else, for example, doesn't earn those funds, or someone leaves the district and they had earned their funds are divided evenly amongst the others. And so it's a really a great, and one district that I know that adopted this, I think about 3 years ago now, is Gainesville ISD. They got this grant about 3 years ago, and I was speaking with the superintendent, and he was saying that in the beginning it was definitely some growing pains because everyone had to grow. He said, himself included, because it's strong research-based instructional practices that work with all students and really challenge the status quo of how students are performing. But he says by year 2, after seeing the results, and especially after the payout, he said, I mean, his staff would not have it any other way. They would not want to go back to another program. And so it comes highly recommended, and it's quite effective in increasing student achievement.
So is it a use it or lose it kind of grant? Like you have to use it. It's not something, like we have to use the full amount, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then that won't take away, like, we won't have a gap. It's not taking the place of something we're already paying. It's above and beyond.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
About what percentage of teachers will be involved? Like, I mean, I know you don't know exactly, but is it more like 10% or 25% or 50%?
What do you mean involved in?
The becoming lead teachers and
I think it depends on, like, I don't know the exact numbers, but maybe there may be one lead teacher for every 20 teachers on campus, and then maybe one demonstration teacher for every 10 teachers. And those aren't the exact numbers, but it kind of works out like that to where, because they'll divide up into pods. So one lead teacher and demonstration teacher will all work together with classroom teachers, and they'll be in their own little pod and the others. The great thing about this grant also, though, is it takes everyone on campus, where you have those, because we still are under high stakes accountability with STAR and all of that. So it's the payout is based off of that. But if you have your librarians, your PE teachers, your music teachers, and all the electives also can be a part of it if the whole school together is increasing, because they obviously contributed as well. And so it's a really, and it puts even the principals able to get a bonus if you get a certain amount. And so it makes it a team on campus where everyone, whether I'm a third grade reading teacher or not, I'm doing something to make sure the third graders are getting to know how to read in PE class, or, or in my music, I'm doing something that will help them. And so it's a really great way to build a team on campus and to really help them.
oh, there's the list that she was looking for. Sharon, do you want to go over the?
Well, this was just an illustrative example. And so what Dr. Liggins was talking, we can weight our stipends. So if so in this example, the whole school growth would weight 35%. And then the ratings on the leadership team meetings could weight 25%. The 360 survey is another thing that is a suggestion if we wanted to, meaning like I'm a lead teacher, then the teachers and the principal gets to give an evaluation to my contribution to the success. So that could weight a percentage. And then the teacher attendance or tenure could weight as a percentage. And then again, and the committee will decide what that scale is and where that falls. And then, so this was just strictly to be used as an example.
Okay. Would some of the curriculum specialists at central office be eligible to try and become a part of this program?
Anyone could interview, yes.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? Okay, it looks like we're good. Thank you. We'll look forward to hearing more about this at later on. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Next we come to the calendar, and I don't know how many of you are like me, but I'm more of I like to have paper in my hand, and so then I can write on it and refer to it. So I have copies of the oh, here, this one's, yeah, the calendar, if you want to mark them up. I think there's actually a couple of extra ones. I haven't quite gone completely into the electronic age yet. Okay, that's the bag for votes. Yeah, I do. Thank you. Okay, thanks. You got one? Okay. All right. This is kind of what we had last year. We can change it. We can mark it up. We can toss it and start over. I'd prefer not, but you know, we could. So I hope you have all had a little bit of a chance to look it over. Does anyone have anything that they would like to change for next year? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we have here the board goals.
They're actually tonight.
Yeah, they're on to talk about tonight. So they're coming up too. Okay. Of course, this is all of these items can be slid a little bit. Well, not all of them. Some of them can't be, but we're not getting a taper report tonight. You know, there are some things like that that will be at a different time.
In fact,
Why aren't we getting a taper report? Was there a reason? I guess if there was.
we actually, if
Yep.
you'll, I think President Stafford, what we have online is different than this one here.
Oh, okay.
Go back up to January, Shannon, if you don't mind, because we did put, there will be a taper report. Yes, a public hearing for taper in January.
Okay.
It doesn't have STAR results on it because we didn't take STAR, but it has other data that's still requiring the board approval.
Well, that's what I was wondering, since we didn't have STAR last year, but
So,
we still have a form of it.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, this calendar outline is just for regular things. We completely understand that things will come up throughout the year that will have to be added to the agenda. If this was all we did, it would be pretty quick meetings every single month, but there's always things added to it. But these are the normal things that we realize are coming up because they come up every year, and most of them are required by law, are required by the board operating procedures that the board has approved.
So this isn't exactly the same thing as, because I thought that we had placed on the calendar a review of where the students were at certain times of the year, and like where they were academically, if we needed to, you know, in January, if there was more help that was needed, that we could possibly, you know, this is for preparation of STAR, you know, if they were falling behind on 9 weeks. And we had discussed about putting that several times on the calendar. Is that not this?
That definitely can go on here. It is not currently. I think we had the what our plan was to do from an administrative standpoint, and you guys tell me if you wanted to change it, was to really have, when we updated the dashboard, to have that also be part of the board meeting at that time, so that you could see where kids are and really have a public discussion about it. This year, I would highly recommend we don't do that until next fall, simply based off of the fact that kids are all over the place this year. And kids are progressing in regression and all sorts of things. And so it's really not a good sense of what we're even measuring this year. That was one of the reasons we advocated for the STAR to be dropped, because it's such a unusual year for student learning. But that is definitely something we can add to this.
Well, January shows the progress report. So will the district improvement plan, will we get some information of where kids are coming next month, or is that not realistic?
It's not realistic. What we did for the first test, this 9 weeks, we just asked, we didn't even require, we told teachers they did not have to take the grade if they did not want to, because it was really a benchmark to see where are our kids. We hadn't seen them since last March, and many of them wanted a comprehensive review of where are kids at that moment. So they took that as a starting point to continue building on. And so it's, I will tell you, it was horrific. I mean, it wasn't good by any means. It was really poor data. Our kids had regressed immensely, but it was really a space where we told teachers, this is for you to really learn and grow from, to see where we can reach our kids. And so we can share that with you, but I don't think it will help us make any district-wide decisions, because teachers are still having to make individual decisions based off of the daily changes that we're having to face due to COVID right now.
It might not, as far as giving a recap on measuring maybe the teachers, but honestly, knowing that other kids are not doing well actually helps me as a parent, because my kid did not do very well in the 9 weeks assessment, and I thought it was only her. So knowing the data that, okay, she's struggling, but other kids are struggling as well. She's going to school. What's going on? I mean, I feel like we need to know, how is this affecting our district overall academically? Not that we're going to be able to do much about it, but that's the times we're living in. But I mean, we can't, I mean, I don't want to hide anything either. This is what's going on with our district. We're not, and this is the same everywhere. Nobody is getting away from this. This is like statistics everywhere, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they've even dropped the rating for STAR so that we're not tested, we're not penalized for our rating, but we know where our kids have slid to, right? That's the whole purpose of the STAR this year, is really just to kind of get a gauge on how much we lost over the last year.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, I think it's important to be upfront with everyone about where we're standing, not just at our level, I guess.
So are you saying, Ms. Cruz, you would like to have a presentation after each grading period test?
It was my understanding we had already talked about that and had decided to put it on the calendar. Is that in my imagination, or did we discuss that?
You're absolutely right. And I will tell you, it was with everything else going on and looking at and last year's calendar and this calendar, I think it was probably just an oversight. Although I would not have probably, I would have recommended that it not be on for this year, but we can definitely, in fact, Sharon and Ms. Driggers are already working on something similar. I don't know if it was for February or was it?
Dr. Liggins, if you don't mind, Ms. Cruz, I think the quarterly report came with the board goals of early childhood education, those goals that we set.
Okay.
And yes, I do have it on the February agenda, Ms. Cruz, to compare to do first 9 weeks and second 9 weeks. Dr. Liggins asked me to do that about a week and a half ago. So yes, you will see that in February board meeting.
Okay, but it's not reflected on the calendar, right? Right now?
It's just going to be a regular agenda item. I'm sorry. No, it was.
Okay, but what I'm saying is we talked about it being on our calendar to hold us accountable to have that when we had spoken about it. So I'm just wondering if it got taken off because we don't want anyone, like we're in the same boat as everyone. I understand where you're coming from, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn and I'm the only person that feels this way. I would like for maybe someone else on the board to tell me if they agree or not. But I just maybe think that it is important to let the public know that we're struggling. Some of our kids are struggling, and it has a lot to do with how we're learning and how the rest of the world has had to deal with education. I mean, if it comes as a surprise in the end that the kids have failed, well, why, I just feel like I don't want to be shooting something out at the end and everyone's like, what? Why didn't you tell us?
I understand where you come from, Ms. Cruz, because I remember we started to come out to every grading period. So you're not alone right there. We all agreed out to every grading period for report.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I also agree. We talked about putting it, can y'all hear me? Okay. Putting it on the calendar, and I think we should leave it on the calendar, even though we're having a rough year. I agree with Aletha that we should leave it on the calendar to hold us accountable and to be transparent with the community and everyone on where we're at with the learning.
And I don't think it was taken off the calendar, at least. I just don't think it was ever put on there to begin with. And so we'll definitely make sure that's added.
Okay. So many things are tied to the success of our students, right? I mean, so many things are tied to it. We can't not talk about it and be real with everyone about where we're standing.
Yeah.
Dr. Liggins?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't see, I mean, if we could scroll down some on that calendar, on the printout that Trina gave, I just see where we have a summative superintendent evaluation. Don't we have two of those, like a formative and then?
Yes, if you scroll down, I believe, to June, it's superintendent summative evaluation and contract renewal.
Okay, well, it's not on this printout, so
Yeah,
okay.
That's a little bit different.
Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
And if you scroll down to, I think, December, it has it for the informal superintendent mid-year performance review.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions that you have, concerns? Okay. Guess we'll bring this back next month to officially approve.
Well, it doesn't require, it's more of a
approve,
discussion. So
yeah.
if you guys are okay with it, we don't have to formally approve it unless you want us to bring it back to formally approve it.
Well, I think it would be a good idea just to bring it back with the changes that were put in.
Okay.
Okay, and this that way we know that everything was included.
Okay.
Okay. We won't be having the same discussion next year then. Okay. If that suits everybody, does that work for you all? Okay. All right. Moving on to the Board of Trustee goals. I also have, if you're not looking at your computer, you can have these to doodle on as well, if you're a doodler. There. Okay, like me. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Oh, I've got, oh, okay. 3. Yeah. Oh, I don't have 1 and 2, I think. This time I'll get them all. Oh, go 1 is teaching and learning. Okay. Okay. Yes, I've got it. Okay, thanks. Okay. As you looked over these ahead of time, did anyone see something that they wanted to change or notate for this coming year?
I would like to note that when the board originally adopted these goals, the 5 goals are directly linked to the strategic plan, 5 goals in that.
My question is, for the board goals for this year, do we need to include something about COVID-19, and not to let us off the hook necessarily, but to make a statement that that did affect student performance in a negative way? Or do we just not talk about it?
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that, can anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. I think that we definitely need to mention, and I don't know where on this, because this COVID situation has affected our district in many ways. I'm not sure about how we should put it on, but it should be on there. And we should also have what we plan to do as a solution to. We don't plan for our kids to be 50% behind whatever grade level they should be in. We don't plan for that, and we have to have something that we're going to do to make sure that these kids come back up to the level that they are. That needs to be part of our goals, I think.
Yep.
And nobody knows really what to do now. But we need to know, and people need to know that we are working on it, are working on that plan. So that should be part of, I don't know where we're going to put that. I don't think it should be a separate board goal.
Well, it seems to me that it would come under goal 1, teaching and learning.
Teaching and learning.
Yeah. But it needs to be kind of a broad statement.
Right.
May I suggest that you guys take a look at bullet number 3 under goal 1, where it says board members, maybe that's not it. Oh wait, board 4. Board members will support initiatives that will lead to increased student. No, that's not it either. I guess it is with board members will approve policies. Sources available. Access. Shannon, could you show me all bullets on that, please?
Number 5.
Oh, that's it. That's
5.
it. Okay, I'm good. Okay. Maybe it does need to be an extra bullet. I can't.
Yeah.
I would suggest that it be a 6th bullet under number 1, because it's too all-encompassing, for lack of a better term, right now, to try to hide it somewhere else, I think. And I don't mean hide, but include, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Could it be just a simple statement? It depends on what direction you want to go. The board members realize that COVID has adversely affected our student learning, and that everything will be done to fill in the gaps to get them where they need to be. I mean, something as broad-based as that.
Good place to start.
It is a good place, I think, to start, that we recognize that we recognize the importance of education, particularly in our younger kids. We understand that that is a crucial period in their lives, and nobody could have predicted how this virus would affect the schools that were going to. Schools had to close. Children were out. Teachers were out, and there was not anything you could do but just make sure that they had whatever resources we had to give to them. So now I think we do need to put in there, we recognize that COVID-19 and its effect on our society particularly has hurt our children. And they are behind, and they need to catch up. That's through no fault of theirs or their parents. So I think we need to put in there, and I don't know how we're going to word it. We need to work in order to bring these children back up to where they should be, to the grade level they should be, to the way of thinking that they should be. We recognize how important it is for kids to be educated.
Would you guys consider, scroll down to the other 4 goals, Shannon, would you consider, because this will impact a variety of things. Human resources is goal 2. Goal 3 is funding and finance. 4 is facilities, and then finally communication. Could we possibly, or what are your thoughts on possibly having a statement in the beginning that states the realization of COVID and what it's done, and how COVID will be considered, the impacts of COVID will be considered throughout these 5 goals in particular? And I can possibly write something up in a variety of 2 or 3 things you guys can choose from next month and say, we like this one, or we like some of that and some of that one, and put it all together. But because I can see how this, I mean, it impacts the entire organization. Instruction is obviously the main one, teaching and learning, but it's going to impact finances, because you're going to have to put some finances into some things that,
That's right.
Facilities, so I think that may be an option you want to look at as well.
I like that idea right there, Dr. Liggins, because COVID is affecting all of them.
Yeah.
Unless you would have to add a bullet to each one, how COVID affects each goal.
I agree. I think that's probably a more appropriate way of addressing it.
Me too.
Agree.
I do too.
Sounds good. Okay, so that you can add that to your
I'll
homework.
add that, yes, and we will bring it back for approval
One more time.
All righty, sounds good.
Okay, yeah, I just think there's no way of not saying that we've had that issue this year.
No, it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the issue, and people do not need to believe that we use that COVID-19 as an issue. Okay, we got it, so we're going to deal with it. We're going to bring these kids back to where they should be, and people just need to know that.
Yeah, except, well, my thing is just, we don't want to give ourselves an excuse for things. That's, but we do have to be realistic.
Yeah, it is realistic, but we still have to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay.
And because a lot of these are impacted, we have to be flexible in how we approach some of these things, because we can't just say, well, you've got to do this, you've got to progress, because that may not be possible. We just have to be careful. So a lead-in statement like Dr. Liggins is suggesting, I think will allow that to be appropriate for everything, and it'll be broad enough that it'll cover everything, but yet explanatory enough that people will realize that there is an impact to this. And heaven forbid that this thing's over in the 2021 school year, it could extend even further. We just don't know.
Let's hope not. No. We're not going there. Next year we can take that statement out, hopefully. But,
we certainly hope so.
Yes. But yes, okay. Well, thank you. That was a quick. I was afraid we were going to get stuck on this and be here till 9 o'clock, but nope, working right along. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay. Next, we need to consider approval for professional engineering service. Is Dr. Anderson going to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, board members, good evening. This evening, we want to look at consideration of approval of the selection of the most highly qualified professional services provider in response to a request for qualifications, also known as an RFQ. There are two of them this evening. The first one is 21-0001. It specifically covers geotechnical engineering services, construction materials testing, and environmental assessments. And then we're also asking this evening that you give the authorization to the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute a contract for these professional services. Shannon, if you'll go ahead and move 2 slides. There you go. The Texas Government Code states that public school districts are required to use professional services of architects and engineers in order to design certain construction projects. We've touched on this in the past before in some previous presentations to the board, in which we have hired a roofing consultant, as well as an architect. These same rules are in order for us to hire other professional services. So to procure services for this is a 2-step process. The first step is you have to evaluate and select the most highly qualified applicant based on their demonstrated competence and qualifications. Then the second step, once you've done that, and we're asking you to do the first this evening, is to negotiate a fair and reasonable contract with them. So the way that the legislature set this up, you cannot talk about price with a professional service provider until you've named that person as the most highly qualified person and start negotiations with them. All right. A little bit different from most things that we deal with in the school, in which we're looking for the lowest bidder and we look for prices ahead of time. Next slide, please. And so Greenville ISD issued a request for qualifications on November the 5th of this year. This was posted on our website. The ad was advertised in the Herald Banner for 2 consecutive weeks. And these were due on December the 3rd. So they had almost a month to respond to this request for qualifications. The district had a selection committee. It was comprised of 2 Greenville ISD representatives, myself, as well as Dennis Russell, who is our maintenance and construction director, and then 2 Corrigan associates. Corrigan is our architectural firm that we deal with. And then we sat down as a committee and evaluated all of these. Actually took us for both RFQ 0001 and 0002 about 7.5 hours to go through all of the qualifications and to make these determinations. So we received for this particular one 9 different firms who submitted their information to us for geotechnical services. Next slide, please. There was a rubric that was communicated ahead of time to these applicants, along with the number of points and the areas in which we would be looking at information. We discussed with them for 30 points previous school district project experiences, preferably in either North or East Texas school district market. We looked at references from previous district clients. That was 50 points, especially from clients who worked with the key staff that they're recommending for our school district. 10 points was the project report submission format. In other words, they have to give to us on their geotechnical services a report over what they're doing, what we're asking them to do. And it needs to be comprehensive, clear, but at the same time, easy to understand. And so they were to include that with their packet. And then 10 points for their previous experience with the district, if there was any. And then that experience also had to be in good standing with the district, that we felt like they did a good job. Next slide. So for RFQ 21-0001, the committee selected from those firms ETTL Engineers and Consultants Incorporated. Now, this is a firm that we have not worked with in the past, or at least in the recent past. Next slide, please. It is a Hub certified women-owned small business. They were formerly known as the East Texas Testing Laboratory Incorporated. That's where the ETTL comes from. They've been in business since 1965, and they have 5 offices: Arlington, Austin, Tyler, Longview, and then Texarkana, Arkansas. Next slide. They have 24 technicians, 17 geotechnical and environmental professionals. Their firm experience includes several different samples: Texas A&M Dentistry Clinical Education Facility, Texas A&M Commerce Education Building, and New Residence Hall. If you've been to A&M Commerce lately and you've seen that nice nursing and health building that they have next to the lake, they were a part of that project. The Tyler Junior College Nursing and Health Science Center, Eustis ISD, they built a new high school with them, DeQueen ISD, new gym, Texarkana ISD, numerous projects. They've also been involved heavily with Tyler ISD and numerous jobs that they've done. And the A&M system has used them for over 15 years and are, I think, probably getting ready to renew them again for another 5-year stint. So they come highly recommended. Lance Melton, who is our architect with Corgan, he's also online in case you have questions this evening. He was able to check some references. I checked references, heard nothing but good things about them. And most of the people who are using them have used them for a long time because they enjoy the experience and they've done a good job for them. So it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve us contracting with ETTL to be able to come up with the contract, negotiate and execute that contract with them as the most highly qualified service provider for geotechnical engineering services, construction materials testing, and environmental assessments. Do you have any questions regarding this RFQ?
Yes. Can you, is this for the, what we're doing at the high school for the pharmaceutical and cosmetology and so forth?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I left that part out. I meant to tell you that what we're actually looking at is, if you recall from our previous conversations, when I first came into the district, we did not have anyone under contract for ongoing architectural, roofing, or other engineering services. And so typically what a district does is they will contract out with a period of time with a master agreement for engineering or professional services. That way, any projects that you have over a certain period of time, you have a pool of people that you can use to be able to do those projects. And so what we're looking at doing is negotiating a 5-year master agreement with these service providers. And so that way, yes, the mechanics bays that we're looking at for the transportation department, that would be one of the first projects that they would tackle. But at the same time, because they're under contract, if the district has anything else that comes up along the way, including emergencies that take place, we already have someone on board. Our problem now is, without having someone on board, if an emergency situation occurred, we still have to go through the proper process of procuring these engineers and their professional services through this same process. And so this way they're on board, they're in a pool. We already have a contract, and then we use them for those projects. Does that answer your question?
And so
Yes, yes, it does.
Ideally, we'll, in 5 years, whether we need these services or not, we'll try to get another one for 5 years, just in case something happens. They're already on board, where we don't have to go through this whole process when we need them, because it does require board approval. So
yeah, so every time you do a project, you're not having to go back through this whole process per project. You already have someone on board for 5 years, and then you can go back and either renew, or you can go back and you can put another request for qualifications if you'd like to look at a whole different pool.
And this just becomes part of our yearly budget?
The budget for this, actually, the understanding with them is that if we need them for projects, then we will use them for those projects based on the rates that they approve in that contract. But if we don't have any projects during the 5 years, they aren't necessarily getting paid anything. It's a project by project basis. So when it comes up to those projects, the board would have to approve a budget for that particular project. So it's one of those kind of project by project, as you approve the budgets to be able to build, say, the transportation facility, et cetera. When we look at those costs and do the bids there, that becomes a part of the budget we set aside for that.
Okay, so it's not like we're paying a retainer.
Exactly, you are correct.
Okay. Ann, did you have a question?
I did. Suppose that you decide during this 5-year period that you wanted a different firm to handle whatever project that was. Does this bind you to one firm for
No, ma'am.
5 years?
No, ma'am. This is one firm that we have that we can pull from during that 5 years. To go back and get someone else, you would have to name another a company, so you could go back through that process and negotiate a contract with them as well. Some districts have multiple groups that they have contracts with, that they have several projects. So, for instance, a Dallas ISD may have a whole pool of people that they're using because they're building multiple buildings at the same time. So it doesn't necessarily lock us into one company.
Okay.
Would you prefer to vote on this item or go on to the next one and then vote on both of them at the end?
If we could do them separately.
Okay. So board, what is your pleasure?
I move we accept the recommendation of the administration and proceed on with the negotiation of the contract with his ETTL engineers and consultants.
I second.
Second by Letha. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No.
No.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and it's all those opposed, no. Then the vote is 6-0 with Tish having just stepped out. Okay. Okay. Ready for the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, this is RFQ 21-0002. Shannon, if you'll go to the next slide, please. This is for you to consider the approval of the selection of the most highly qualified professional services providers in response to request for qualifications 21-0002. This is for civil engineering services, surveying, SUE surveys, which is subsurface utility engineering and locating, and landscape architecture services. It also would ask to have you authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute a contract for professional services. Next slide, please. Same two-step process that we talked about before. also for these professional services. Next slide. This was put out at the exact same time as the first request. So this was put out on November 5th. It was put in the newspaper for 2 weeks. It was posted on the website. And then on the 3rd, we had the committee review. We had 7 firms that responded to this particular RFQ. And they were different firms from the other. Go ahead, Shannon. Applicants were rated on a predetermined pre-communicated rubric. This rubric is different from the last one, so if you'll bear with me while I go through it. Previous school district projects experience for 30 points. We were looking for successful completion of comparable projects, consistent achievement of clients' program, budget, and schedule, the quality of the completed projects, and then any previous experience with the district. Next slide. For 30 points, references from the previous district clients that their commitments were met on completed projects, the schedules were maintained, their ability to work with district personnel, and this is especially important, and authorities having jurisdiction. Whoever we bring in, we want to be able to work well with the city and the things that the city requires that we do, or that the county may require that we do. Creative and functional design, documents completed in a timely manner, and responsive personnel. The next slide. 10 points for their capabilities and relevant experience of project staff, and 10 points for any experience with the district. And again, with this one, that's if they had experience, and if they did have experience, was it a good experience for the district? Was the district willing to retain them again based on their past experience? Next slide. And then 20 points for business organization and capabilities, their financial, personnel, technical resources, their quality innovation, and then the volume of the completed project experience they have with ISDs. Next slide. So on this one, we have 2 different companies that we're recommending, and I'll give you the reasoning for that in a moment. One of them is Adams Engineering, and the other is McAdams engineering firm. Neither of these have been under contract recently with the district in the past. Next slide. All right, so let me tell you about, well, first of all, let me tell you why we're looking at 2. Not all firms that do the civil engineering do all of those things that we were asking for, all right? And so we went ahead and rated the firms in order in which we believe that they met the criteria. Some firms, in fact, most of the firms do not do the subsurface utility engineering and locating portion. That is, looking to find out what's underground and or designing the underground utilities that go into facilities. And so we looked for the civil engineer that we thought met the criteria the most. And then we looked at those who also may do the other services, but provide the SUE portion. So what we're doing is recommending to the board that you approve both. It would allow us to use either company if there's a situation that we need them to, although one of them is probably going to be leaned more heavily toward the subsurface utility engineering and locating services, where the other is going to be mainly our civil engineer that we use, if that makes sense. And so Adams Engineering began a civil engineering in Tyler, Texas 40 years ago. They now have offices in Dallas, Tyler, and Austin, with extensive experience with public schools in both North and East Texas. They, as part of their services, offer civil engineering, environmental services, water sewer design, roadway design, landscape architect, site planning, and many more things, but those are chiefly the things that we would look at them for. The next slide. They've worked with several school districts. I won't read through the whole list, but you can see that you know, they're hitting school districts all around us, so they're familiar with the soil types that we have, the part of the country that we're in, etc. And then 2 of these, I noted that they have worked with Corrigan Associates. Those 2 districts had the same relationship, that they're using the same architectural firm that we are. So our architects have worked with them. They know that they're good to work with, and that's always good, because they have to have a good working relationship between the architectural firm and the civil engineering firm. The other is McAdams. That's on the next slide. They were founded in 1979 as a full-service multidisciplinary design firm. They're located in Durham, North Carolina, with Texas offices in Louisville and Roanoke. They've served North Texas area schools for more than 35 years. They provide landscaping, architecture, surveying, SUE surveying, stormwater management, civil engineering, construction administration, and land planning. So they do some of the same things, but they also have a heavy focus on surveying, and especially the SUE surveying, which are areas that are not necessarily a strong suit for Adams, or may not be offered by Adams. If you go to the next page, please. Their K-12 experience includes these districts that you see, and I won't read all those to you, but again, districts from this general part of the country, which is good to know, especially since they're based out of North Carolina, that they do business in Texas. They have offices in Texas and in this part of the state, so they're familiar again with the conditions that we have on a yearly basis, and they've worked with some of the authorities around us. And so I've also talked to references. I know that Lance with Corrigan has talked with references. They are highly recommended. Tyler ISD uses Adams on a regular basis and has for a long time. Other districts around us, especially in the North Texas area, has used Adams and McAdams, and so they are both highly recommended. I've not found anybody that had negative things to say about them. And the nice thing is when you call people up and you ask for references, and you don't have to say anything other than tell me about your experience, and they begin to open up and say positive things, that's good. When you have to drag it out of them, you know that they're a little bit more hesitant. And so there was no one who was hesitant in recommending any of the firms that we've looked at. And so I think that's a positive sign for us. And so it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve both Adams and McAdams for civil engineering services, surveying, SUE surveys, and landscape architecture services, and designate that the superintendent or designee will procure a contract by negotiating and executing that contract with Adams and McAdams for these purposes. Do you have any questions? It is the same thing. It's a 5-year contract.
Oh, your person with Corrigan is pleased with these two, so that helps. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Do they do?
He's on. If you would like to ask him any questions as well. Okay.
That's okay. Have they done any work for cities, or do they mostly just work with ISDs?
No, they do cities as well. So they have a broad range of experience. Part of what we judge, though, in the rubric is to make sure that they did have some ISD experience, because, and Corrigan will point this out, that the experience you have with the city and doing roads, et cetera, may be very different from planning an elementary school or a middle school or a high school, where you have to take into account you know, the pedestrian traffic to the building, the bus lanes, the parking, et cetera, based on time schedules and other facilities that might be around an educational environment. So yes, they all have extensive experience with cities and county governments, but at the same time, they also have that ISD experience, which allows them to understand our unique needs that might not appear in working with a city or a county government.
Okay. Do you have Roger, do you have a question? No? Okay, you look like you have one? Okay. Well, board, what would you like to do?
I'd like to make a motion that we use Adams and McAdams for civil engineering services, surveying, SUE services, landscaping, architecture services, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute a contract for professional services.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to go with Adams and McAdams. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Okay, that passes unanimously with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. Yeah.
For BE local update, I'd also like Dr. Anderson to present this portion.
All right, I'm going to try to make this as less confusing as I possibly can. So if you'll bear with me for just a minute, this is talking about an update to BE local. This was brought to our attention that the board has previously voted on some things related to BE local that didn't make it into an update. And so we want to go back and do some revisions to make sure that our policy and your procedures match. So Shannon, if you'll go to the next slide for me, please. Right. I know we have a new board member, and some of you may not be super familiar with the way that TASB and policies work. So if you'll bear with me on this part, we'll do a little bit of education for all of us. But the Texas Association of School Boards, known as TASB, maintains both the legal and local policies for our school district, as well as pretty much every school district in the state of Texas. When you see a policy with the designation legal, those policies are determined by the state, normally passed by the legislature. And so the district doesn't have a choice in adopting those policies. Legal policies become your policies, whether you want them to or not. Local policies, though, usually detail how those legal policies are carried out at the local level. And so the board has the say in how legal policies are developed to be able to carry out those local, local policies to carry out the legal. So TASB Policy Services, a branch of TASB, uses lawyers or their attorneys to write and review district policies. And all policies have a designation on them or a version. So in your packet, I believe you have two different versions of this policy. So if you were to look at the policy in the lower left-hand corner, it will tell you this is policy BE local, and then it either has a letter A through D, or it has an X after it. Anytime in local policy you see it, the designation of A through D, that tells you that's a standard policy that TASB's written. So if there's an A, most districts probably use A. There's a version of it that's B or C or D, etc. X is a very unique policy just for that district. And so it's maintained completely separately, special to that district. Next slide, please. So back in October of 2019, the board voted to revise policy BE local. The changes that were voted on by the board, though, were not recorded by TASB Policy Service before the board's approval of policy update 114 that came out in February of 2020. So in other words, you wanted changes made. It didn't get recorded at TASB before the next update came out. When that update came out, there were changes in that update for BE local. So when you approved update 114, it actually superseded what you did in October of 2019. And so it never got changed. So the current version of the board policy does not align with the current version of the board operating procedures. In order to make them align, we want the board to go back and revise policy BE local to say what you want it to say. Next slide, please. So to summarize what you did back in October, to kind of remind you, the board voted in October of 2019 to update and make the following changes. You wanted to change the requirement that to add an item to the board agenda, where before it said it took 2 board members, you wanted to change it to say that only 1 board member had to make that request. You added the sentence, once the requested agenda item has been placed on the agenda, at the request of 1 board member, the same agenda item cannot be placed on the agenda again by the same board member. Your current policy from update 114 keeps some old phrasing which said the board by majority vote at a meeting may decide to take an item off the agenda. So policy BE local as voted on in October was going to be a version X, a unique policy. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So I've tried to line up side by side what your operating procedures say with the TASB recommended language for policy BE local. Pardon. So what I'm going to try to do is walk you through your procedure and that policy recommendation. Basically, you're changing in your procedures. You're saying one trustee has the right to request that something goes on the agenda. All right, as long as at least that one trustee has turned it in a timely manner. The TASB recommended policy for BE local doesn't use the word one trustee. It says any board member or a board member, but it has the same intent, all right, in their legal language. So we're okay there. Next slide. Your operating policy says that the board president shall not have the authority to remove from the agenda a subject requested by one trustee without those trustees' specific authorization. Right. So if you go back and look at the TASB recommendation, it keeps that same wording, but the policy that's currently in place, that one from update 114, also said that the board by majority vote may remove an item basically from the agenda. TASB doesn't have that language in their current recommended policy. They just remove the majority vote portion and leave it that one person can ask for it to be on there, and that the board president cannot remove that item without that trustee specific authorization. All right, next slide. All right, here the operating procedures are silent on this. And in the item that you voted on in October, you had added the phrase that talked about once the requested agenda item's been placed on the agenda by the one board member, it can't be taken off, or excuse me, can't be placed back on a future agenda item by the same board member. All right, that's not in TASB's policy, and it's not currently in your operating procedures, but it was in what you said in October you wanted to do. So that's going to be a decision point in just a moment. The next slide, please. So version A of the policy from TASB is consistent with what your intention was in October to allow one board member to add an item, and that required the board president to gain the trustee's authorization to remove the item from the agenda. But it does not keep a board member from adding the same topic to a future board agenda, and it does not require a majority vote of the board to remove an agenda item. All right. The next slide, please. So this is actually the wording from, let me move my screen around here. This is the actual wording from BE Local A. It says, in consultation with the school board or with the board president, the superintendent shall prepare an agenda for all board meetings. This is where it says any board member and a board member. All right, so that goes back and it's consistent with what your procedures say. Next slide, please. It talks again about an individual board member being able to have that on the agenda if it's put in a timely manner. And then it says that the board president shall not have authority to remove from the agenda a subject requested by the board member without the board member specific authorization. All right, that's in keeping with what is in your procedures. Then it says, and so if you look at this portion, well, it said at the beginning in version, hang on, let me back up. I'm sorry. That was version A. This is version X. Here's the differences. The first part is the same as version A. All right, one board member can make that decision. All right, so the next slide is also the same as version A, which goes back and says about the individual board member or the president not having the authority to remove the item. Those are all consistent in either version A or version X that you have before you. Here's where it differs. Shannon, if you'll go to the next one. In the X version, it says the board by majority vote in a meeting may decide to take the item off the agenda. So we've said on version X that the board president cannot remove the item without the permission of that person. But this one now says that the board in a meeting may vote, and the majority of the board, if they vote to take it off the agenda, can take it off the agenda without discussing that item, basically. The other thing that it says is that once the requested agenda item has been placed on the agenda at the request of one board member, the same agenda item cannot be placed on a future agenda item by the same board member. So if the board member comes in and says, I want this item placed on the agenda in January, it's put on there, it's discussed, and then you come back in February and they want to place it on there again, according to this policy and the way that you had passed it back in October, that board member would not be able to do that. Another board member could do it, but that board member couldn't do that. Next slide, please. So to revise the policy, basically you have two choices unless you choose to do something different. One of them is you can adopt policy BE local version A, which is the one TASB has out there, or you can adopt policy BE local version X, which is unique. What X adds in there are those two things that we saw at the end, is that a majority of the board can take an item off the agenda in a board meeting, and that a board member, once they've requested an item is added, cannot add that item at a future board meeting. So the question for you is, which way do you want to go with that? Do you want to not mention the part where you can't add it back in there and that the majority of the board can vote to take an item off, or do you want to leave that part in there? Because the version X that's presented to you tonight is the same as the version X that you passed in October. That's not TASB standard version. So you can choose to either go with TASB standard version or to keep your unique policy X. But that's a discussion for the board to have and to determine which way you would like to go.
Thank you. Shannon, could you go back to slide 61? So in summation, the other parts of the policy are the exact same. So the question is, do you want to keep these two things in there, or do you not want to keep them in there?
I don't want to keep them in there. I would rather go with A.
Was there any particular reason for putting these in there in the first place? I guess is my question, since I was not on the board in October of 19.
When we did this right here, we did it on the board operating procedures committee. Me, myself, Ms. Woodruff, and Ms. Cruz. And we did this because we couldn't go talk. If I asked Ms. Ann Haynes about an agenda topic, if she said no, I couldn't go over there and ask Ms. Woodruff about the same thing. That's why we made that policy.
This part of the policy though came after we brought it to the board, correct? Because we wanted to have, so this was not our part of we never recommended this. This came as a recommendation, I think, from other people.
That's correct. That's correct, Aletha.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement to go with version A and leave off what's here in X.
I agree also.
I agree too.
I agree also. I think there's parliamentary ways of getting around some of these things anyway. You can always table an agenda item indefinitely and it goes away.
Yeah.
Well, according to this is first reading, yes. According to protocol, you will hear this to adopt a new policy. You hear it 3 times. You'll hear it again next month, and hear it, and then finally adopt it in February. And so what I guess we'll do, Dr. Anderson, is on next month's meeting, we'll have it without that, present it, and then the following month you'll actually vote.
Yes, sir. I'll provide a clean copy of version A next month.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is consider possibly amending COVID safety response levels.
Yes, for this section, I'd like to call Noelle Bars, please.
Good evening, President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. On December 2nd, the CDC introduced new options to reduce quarantine for contacts of persons with COVID-19. And I'm sure that many of you have been hearing about that. And so tonight I wanted to discuss it, open it as a discussion for the board. The CDC continues to endorse quarantine for 14 days as the best option, but they recognize that any quarantine shorter than 14 days balances a reduced burden against a possibility of spreading the virus. So I still believe that 14 days is the safest option for our students and staff. By far, a majority of parent concerns have been regarding their students being safe enough at school, not that we are over quarantining. With a quarantine of 14 days, there is no COVID test required to return to work or to school. So then the CDC introduced a 10-day option and a 7-day option. With the 10-day option, it requires those who are exposed to someone with COVID-19, they must be symptom-free the entire 10 days in order to return to work or school on day 11. And no COVID testing is required to return. So if the board really wants to decrease the quarantine period, I think a compromise would be to opt for the 10 days. It's the least burdensome in terms of cost and time to families in the district. And it does help to relieve the burden somewhat of the 14-day quarantine without increasing the overall risk as much as the 7-day. The 7-day quarantine requires, again, that all of the exposed persons remain symptom-free for an entire 7 days. And in order to return on day 8, they must have a diagnostic COVID test. So that would not be the rapid test, that would be the diagnostic test, where it usually takes 24 to 48 hours to get results back. I feel like the 7-day option is too risky because it's cutting that quarantine period exactly in half. However, if that option were chosen, Caravide can help with the testing. So again, the CDC, just to reiterate, they still recommend the 14-day is the safest option, but they have introduced the 10 and the 7-day options to help reduce the burden on systems. So it's available.
So with the type of testing that you're asking for, it would require a couple of days to get back anyway, correct?
Yes.
So even if they wanted to come back after 7 days, they would still have to wait till 10 days. They would probably have to get their COVID test on the 7th day or 8th day, even to have a clear to go back on the 10th day.
The CDC recommends the procedure of going ahead and getting that test done on day 5 to allow for that 48 hours time frame.
I'm good with it. So I'm conflicted on this because I feel like we should go in 10 days. However, in just the last probably couple of weeks, I've talked to a handful of people who said that they were exposed and didn't have symptoms until like the 11th day. So I am now conflicted. While when the CDC came out with this, I was very excited for our parents who are having, or who have lots of struggles with the kids being quarantined and having to work, especially for elementary parents. But you know, I'm conflicted now, like I said, because I've had a couple of people come up to me and say they were exposed and didn't get symptoms until the 11th day.
Ms. Noel, do we have to change it from the 14 days, or we leave it the same as it is?
We can leave it the same as it is. There's no requirement to change.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it to the board for discussion because I knew everybody was aware of it and looking at it and having questions.
I think, am I unmuted?
We can hear you. No, you just muted yourself. You were unmuted.
Yeah. I think that since we've had a rise in cases in Hunt County in general, that I would feel more comfortable leaving it at 14 days and maybe revisiting this at the first of the year after we've been back in school for a few weeks to see how the cases are going.
I'm not in favor of changing it from the 14 days. I'll be honest with you.
I think Tish's idea is good. Maybe, you know, February, March, we might be able to make a change at that point. But
perhaps by that time we'll start to see some of the vaccines being administered around here as well.
Yeah.
And then we could come back and readdress it at that point in time.
Yes.
So are we tabling this issue or voting to keep it at 14?
I move we keep it at 14.
Yeah.
And do we have to vote on?
We don't have to vote. No, we're not making a change. So I don't think we have to vote. You just
we
want
don't have to vote on each one of these measures, do we?
No.
No. Okay, good.
So we just want to table this until February or March.
I thought you said we didn't have to vote on it. So why would we table it?
Oh, we might want to change it to 10 days, then we could.
We could just bring it up, right? And put it on as an agenda item.
Yeah. Just bring it up.
Well, to make a change, we would have to vote. But right now, we just stay with what the policy says.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sounds.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement of keeping it at 14 days.
So we're tabling until February?
I think that would give us a good chance to see how the COVID and flu season meld together and how we come out of the holidays and the cold weather. February, probably a good time to look and see. We'll have more data. And as mentioned, more people will have been immunized. And once we get to about 30% of the population immunized is when they said we should start to really see a fall in the COVID cases.
So everyone's okay with February?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Ms. Cruz, I don't see her. Okay.
Yes, I'm good with it.
Okay. All righty, it's tabled.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we're to, let's see, I think I skipped something. Oh, yes. The annual investment report and district investment policy.
Yes, for this one, this was presented last month, and it's just now up. It was a future agenda item last month, and it's now up for approval. And just if you have any questions, Ms. Dotson, our CFO, there she goes, is on the line.
Does anyone have any questions about this? It's just a recommendation from the administration that the board approve the district investment report and resolution.
Jenna, do you have any? Or Jana, do you have, what is it, Jenna or Jana? Jana.
Jana.
Okay. Do you have any questions or would like some explanation?
No.
No. Okay.
And as if you don't mind, Ms. Stafford, we're changing our process. Previously, we would put things for the future items on the consent agenda. Moving forward, they'll be actually listed to be voted on. The consent agenda will only be for standard things that are done every month. So.
Okay. Is there a plan on this, a motion for this?
So moved.
So moved.
I second.
Roger, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Okay, it's approved 7-0. Next, we need to consider approval for a budget amendment to transfer funds for employee incentive.
Yes, this was discussed at a previous meeting, the amount of funds to transfer when you guys voted to give incentive pay to all employees right before the Thanksgiving break. And this is just the approval at this point. If you have any questions, that would also go to Ms. Dotson.
So you just need a motion.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Boy, shorter and shorter. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Nope. Yep. Okay. Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve this amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion approves 7-0. Thank you. Okay, next is purchase of over $50,000 for communities in school.
As most of you will recall, this was part of the budgeting process back when we passed the budget last spring. I believe the entire purchase is $100,000. It's communities in school. That's where actually the young lady that was a Hero of Hope, they pay for our, we have 5 school social workers that serve 5 of our campuses. And an agreement with them, we pay $20,000 of each of their salaries, and communities and schools take care of the rest, which is a pretty good deal for GISD. And so at this point, it's just because it's time to pay the bill and it's over $50,000, it requires board approval, although it was approved as part of the budget at that time.
Can you reiterate what the total price is?
Could you confirm for me? I believe it's 100,000.
Yes, it's 100,000. 80,000 of it is coming out of our general fund budget.
And 20,000 out of Head Start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Board, what would you like to do?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second by Ann. Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, discussion items. Is there
For these items, I'd like to call Ms. Helen Williams and Amy
President
Wade.
Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. It seems that the November election is just barely behind us, but we are already planning for the May 1st election, 2021, which will include the election for 5 and 7 for the school board. So next month, we will bring the order, the notice, and the contract with the Hunt County Voter Administration to you for your approval. I put together this timeline for our district, which lists the important dates from the Secretary of State's office, and I added to it the school board meetings during which we need to take action. So as I said, next month, we will bring to you the order, notice, and contract. And let me know if you have any questions about the upcoming election, the process, the order, notice, or contract.
Which school places are up in May?
Place 5, which is Roger Livingston, and place 7, which is Mike Rackley.
It's the other way around.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. 5 is Rackley,
Okay.
7 is Livingston. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike, didn't you just get elected?
I think I'm holding the record for the most elections within a year.
Oh, that was a special election.
Yes.
This is general.
Yes.
Well, a special election for a special person, I guess, you know.
All right,
Yeah.
I knew he was gonna say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And should there be a should Mike run unopposed, that election can be canceled because he's already been elected by the people. Mr. Livingston, however, will have to be, even if he's unopposed, will have to be on the ballot because I believe, were you appointed last time? What happened? Okay, yeah, and we did not put him on. We canceled it then, which technically we have to go through one election.
Oh, so Mike doesn't have to run again, even though the seat is vacant at.
If he's unopposed.
If he's unopposed, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well.
Some of us are hoping that I'm unopposed.
Yeah. I don't know what that's like. Never had that. Okay. Let's move on down. The consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone wishes to move off of the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, not even crickets. Is there a motion for this?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Roger motion and Ann second. Does that work?
That works. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Hearing none. That vote is also unanimous, 7-0. Okay, vendor, oh, that's already on there. Open forum and public comments. Shannon, has anything come in from the public?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Closed session.
Can I add a comment to that open forum?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah.
So I was curious, at the middle school, the road on Templeton Street, closest, you have Templeton, I can't remember what that side street is, right there by the maintenance building. From there on up to Texas Street, there's a lot of, right there's potholes and the stop sign. There's a lot of potholes and the pavement's uneven all the way across. Is that the city's responsibility to fix that? And how can we approach them about getting that repaired? It's getting quite, I mean, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, all streets are the city's responsibilities. And the last city council meeting I went to, they had quite a few people in public comment about roads, and we could go get in line with everyone else, but there were quite a few people upset that their roads weren't chosen over others. but the city did choose some roads at that time. We can advocate for that road as a just because it impacts our property, but we would have the same weight as if you did it for your own street.
So right there at Texas and Templeton, where the kids are crossing over, would that not be considered a hazard for the students walking across and the potholes? And I know there's like tape. Oh, I don't know who put the tape up, but from the school crossing sign to the stop sign, there's like that yellow tape that, you know, you put up. But from the sidewalk closest to the school to where you start to the football field, the bus barn, I mean, it's about this wide all the way down, and kids are crossing that each day. Is that not considered a hazard for the students?
Probably. I will have we can look into that. I'm gonna have Dr. Anderson look into that, call the city and see what, if anything, they can do.
Would it be worth our time to make a presentation about that? I mean, as far as taking pictures and saying this is the issue we're having with this particular street.
Yeah, I think we'll probably, with Anderson, I'd prefer Anderson to go speak to his counterpart at the city and see if something, and if not, then possibly we need to go further to do something with the city council. But they may, just out of being a good neighbor, do something for us without us having to go that route.
I'm about to complain to my city councilman right now.
Yes. And did you ever figure out the old baseball cage that's right there? You know, it's all torn up. Did you ever follow up?
What was I
Dr.
supposed to do
Anderson?
with that?
Well, look, it's all tore up, like it's been in a windstorm and it's all mangled up. Are we going to remove it, or are we leaving it like it is? Or
I did not follow up. I dropped the ball.
No, you did. No, you did
I?
follow up with me.
Oh, I
Yes,
did.
sir.
I didn't give myself credit. Okay.
It's coming down
What's going on
over.
with that, Anderson?
It's supposed to come down over the Christmas break.
Oh, good,
If
good.
the weather holds up, that's the plan.
Because it looks awful.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't give myself enough credit. I didn't realize that.
I got a question for you. How did the roof of the high school come?
That's a great question, Anderson.
The roof of the high school, they've completed phase one. I, in fact, got a report today that there were no leaks on any of the portion of the roof that had been replaced. I'm really waiting for a good downpour. You know, that was a nice slow rain. Usually that's enough to make it leak if it's going to, but I'm waiting for a really good downpour to verify. But so far, there were no leaks, and our person who takes care of the ceiling tiles and the roof was elated that there were no leaks there. So we're excited about that. Looking forward to getting the second phase done this next summer.
Where are we at on LP Waters?
That should come up. We have last week and this week, we've had a group of forensic auditors looking at everything on our behalf. Once they have all of that together and an estimate, then a letter will go out giving the 30-day notice to the insurance. And then once that takes place, we can bid out that project. So it should be coming up January, February to bid it out. So we're close. We're almost there.
And okay, I had something, or do you want to talk to the lawyer and see whether something legal could be worked out for the flowers and stuff?
I prefer to do that first.
Okay, all right. That'll be tabled until another time. Okay.
Well, now we're like, what are you talking about? Flowers?
Well,
do we need to talk about it in closed session?
No, according to our auditors who noticed that the district had spent money on flowers, and you know, I think it was for Slack service, and you know, it's like technically we're not supposed to do that, but we don't have a fund to take money from, except he's going to talk to the lawyer. But I had suggested or thought about the other night and asked him what he thought, if maybe like for our meals every month, if we all put in a couple of bucks and build up a fund so the district could send flowers for, you know, I mean, we've had,
you mean
3 deaths this year already.
You mean the district is not not doing something legal by sending flowers for the passing of a board member?
Well, technically that's taxpayer money that we're then using for something that's not really in our
Yes, the
the
auditor stated
yeah
that you can possibly get away a lot better with buying flowers for a teacher or for a student death, because you can link that back to staff morale, you can link that back to recognition and all of that, more so than a board member. And it's a whole lot less of y'all, and hopefully we don't have any more deaths on the board, but I mean, with students and staff, it's much more common. And so the auditor also said he had known certain districts, the board adopted a policy that stated, should a student pass, the district may contribute $50 to a arrangement to the family, or should a teacher pass. And then that way, he said, it could be, you could point to that board policy and state, well, we're following board policy, if they triggered it in an audit to say, why are you spending this on that? So, so she was asking, do I think we should collect dollars tonight? And I was like, no, I prefer to talk to see if we can look into a policy first.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it another time.
Okay.
So you can put your wallets away.
Yeah. Yeah, this might have been a $5 dinner tonight. Yeah. Okay, closed session. I believe
The only thing I have, and I believe it was in your packet, were the 2 teachers being hired. So unless you have questions about them, there's no need to go into closed session.
Okay. Anyone have any questions they want to ask? If not, then we can is there a motion?
I move that we accept the administration's personnel report as presented.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the personnel report as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion is approved 7-0. Okay, are there any future agenda items or open-ended questions that we need to bring back that you want to place on the agenda? And that goes into your secretary's report. Were there
What
any?
does?
Oh,
It goes in this?
well, no, it doesn't go on your report. It just, is there anything that you noticed? Were there any open-ended questions, I guess?
Things like that thing where I owe you guys back. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, future workshops. We have one coming up or we don't have one. Oh, in January.
January 12th.
January. Yeah, January 12th. So team of 8 training. So Hearing nothing else to come before the board, then I declare this meeting adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.